I want to tell you about a guy named Marcus. Marcus was 28 years old, college educated, good job in finance. He dressed well, drove a decent car, and by every measure that society told him mattered, he was doing all right. He was the kind of guy that mothers point to and say, "Why can't you find someone like him?" And yet Marcus was invisible to the women he actually wanted. Not invisible like they didn't see him. They saw him, they talked to him, they texted him back. They even went on dates with him. But somewhere between the first conversation and anything real developing, the same thing kept happening. She'd go cold. She'd stop responding. She'd say, "I think of you more like a friend." And Marcus would be sitting there, genuinely confused, replaying every interaction in his head, trying to figure out what went wrong. He came to me after his third situationship in 2 years had ended the exact same way. He sat across from me and said 7 words that I've heard from more men than I can count. He said, "I don't understand what women want." And I told him the truth. I said, "Marcus, the problem isn't that you don't understand what women want. The problem is that you don't understand what attraction actually is." That stopped him cold. Because here's what most men believe. And I mean most men, probably the majority of men listening to this right now. They believe that attraction is built through logic. They believe that if they check enough boxes, good job, nice car, respectful, kind, consistent, emotionally available, that a woman will naturally feel attracted to them. They treat attraction like a job application, like if your resume is impressive enough, you get the position. And that's exactly why they keep getting rejected. Here at Ali Vinci University, we talk about this constantly. We work with men from all over the world, different ages, different backgrounds, different levels of success. And one of the first things we address is this fundamental misunderstanding about what attraction is and how it works. Because until you fix the foundation, nothing else we teach you will stick. You can learn every text message technique, every conversation trick, every date strategy, and it will all fall apart if you don't understand what we're going to cover in this chapter. So let's start from the very beginning. Let's talk about what attraction actually is. When a woman feels attracted to a man, she didn't sit down and think, "All right, let me weigh the pros and cons here and decide to feel butterflies for this guy." It doesn't work like that. Attraction is a feeling, it's emotional, it's visceral. It happens below the level of conscious thought. It fires before the logical brain even gets involved, and this is where men get completely lost. Because men are wired to think logically. Men solve problems, men make lists, men present evidence. And when they present their evidence, their job, their intentions, their good character, to a woman and she still doesn't feel attracted, they are baffled. Because from a logical standpoint, the case was airtight. But you weren't in a courtroom. You were in the arena of emotion. And the rules are completely different. Now, I'm not saying logic plays no role at all. Logic absolutely matters, but it comes later. Logic is what a woman uses to justify an attraction she already feels. It's not what creates the attraction in the first place. Think of it this way. Have you ever met a woman who was dating a guy that, on paper, made no sense for her? You've seen it. The guy with no stable income, questionable decisions, maybe not even particularly kind to her, and yet she's completely drawn to him. And you're standing there thinking, what does she see in that guy? Meanwhile, you're sitting there with your life together, treating her like gold, and you're in the friend zone. That's not because women are irrational. That's because you fundamentally misunderstood what she was actually responding to. She wasn't responding to the checklist. She was responding to how he made her feel. Now, before anyone jumps to conclusions, I am not telling you to be a bad guy. I'm not telling you to disrespect women or manufacture drama or pretend to be someone you're not. What I'm telling you is far more important than that. I'm telling you to understand the actual mechanism of attraction so you can operate inside of it. Authentically, powerfully, and with integrity. Let's break down the foundation. There are 4 pillars of attraction that we teach at Ali Vinci University. Master these 4 things and you will never again be confused about why attraction fades or why it never developed in the first place. Not physical presence, I mean internal presence. The kind of energy you carry when you walk into a room. The way you hold yourself, speak, take up space. Women and people in general are incredibly sensitive to the energy of whoever is standing in front of them. They pick up on whether you're nervous, whether you're seeking approval, whether you need validation from them to feel okay about yourself. Let me give you an example. I had a client, let's call him Derek, who was a genuinely good-looking guy. Objectively, physically, he was above average, and yet his Hinge profile was getting almost 0 matches. He came to me and we started talking, and within 10 minutes of conversation, I understood exactly why. Derek had this quality of seeking. Every story he told, every statement he made, he'd end it with a little upward inflection, almost like a question. Like he was constantly checking to see if I approved of what he just said. His confidence was entirely external. It depended on how people responded to him. Women feel that immediately, and it repels them. Not because women are cruel, but because attraction is fundamentally tied to confidence, to a sense that a man is okay within himself regardless of external approval. When a woman feels like a man needs her to feel good about himself, she instinctively pulls back. And the more she pulls back, the more he chases. And the more he chases, the more she loses attraction. It's a self-reinforcing cycle that ends in exactly the kind of situation Marcus found himself in. Presence means being fully in yourself, grounded, unhurried, not performing for an audience. There's a quality to men who have real presence. They don't seem like they're trying, they're just being. And that quality of simply being without needing to prove anything or earn anything is incredibly magnetic. Here's something that might surprise you. Women are not turned off by men who have standards. They're attracted to them. High-value women, the ones you actually want to be with, are actively looking for men who don't accept just anything. Because a man with no standards sends a very clear subconscious message. He doesn't value himself enough to be selective. Think about it from a pure attraction standpoint. If someone will accept anything, any treatment, any behavior, any level of disrespect, what does that communicate? It communicates low self-worth, and self-worth is one of the most attractive qualities a human being can have. I worked with a client, I'll call him James, and James had been in an on-again, off-again relationship for 3 years with a woman who repeatedly disrespected his time, blew up his boundaries, and then came back with just enough affection to keep him hooked. He kept taking her back because he loved her, and every time he took her back, she respected him less. Not because she was a bad person, but because James kept showing her that there were no consequences for how she treated him. And without consequences, behavior doesn't change. More importantly, without standards, attraction doesn't grow. It shrinks. The moment James finally set a real standard, not as a manipulation tactic, but as a genuine declaration of self-respect, everything shifted. She started to see him differently. Why? Because for the first time, she felt like he actually valued himself. And that made her value him more. Standards aren't about playing games. Standards are about actually knowing your worth and acting accordingly. And this one confuses a lot of men, so stay with me here. Attraction requires tension, not conflict, not drama. Tension? There's a difference. The kind of tension I'm talking about is emotional tension. The feeling of something unresolved, something building, something that hasn't quite been defined yet. It's that electric feeling in a conversation where both people know something is there, but neither one has said it explicitly. It's the space between words. It's the pause before you answer. It's the playful back and forth that keeps her wondering where this is going. Nice guys collapse tension immediately. The moment there's any ambiguity, they rush to resolve it. They over-explain. They over-text. They clarify their intentions before the woman has even had a chance to feel curious about them. They give everything away up front because they're afraid of the discomfort of uncertainty. And in doing so, they eliminate the very thing that makes attraction build. Think about great movies. Great movies don't show you everything in the first 10 minutes. They give you just enough to stay hooked. They create questions that pull you forward. That pull, that unresolved anticipation, is exactly what tension feels like in attraction. And when you understand how to create it naturally, through confidence and playfulness rather than manipulation, the dynamic between you and a woman changes completely. I'll tell you about a coaching session that changed how I think about this. I had a client, his name was Trey, and Trey was one of the most genuinely funny, charming people I'd ever met one-on-one. But with women he was interested in, he transformed into this almost painfully earnest, eager version of himself. He'd laugh at everything she said, even when it wasn't funny. He'd agree with everything. He'd compliment constantly. And in his mind, he was being warm and supportive. But what he was actually doing was removing all the tension from the interaction. He was making it completely safe and predictable. And safe and predictable doesn't produce attraction. We spent a few weeks working on how Trey showed up in conversation. Not changing who he was, but unlocking the version of himself that he actually was with his friends, with people he wasn't trying to impress. That version had edge, had playfulness, had opinions, didn't agree with everything, could tease, could challenge, could create moments of genuine surprise. And when Trey started showing up to his dates as that version of himself, the results were dramatically different. Women were calling him, following up, asking when they were hanging out again. Same man, different understanding of tension. Who are you when no one is watching? Who are you when there's nothing to prove and no one to impress? That man, or your core identity, is what women ultimately respond to. Not your car, not your job title, not your text message game, your identity. Now here's where it gets real. Most men, if they're honest, don't have a fully formed identity outside of what they do for work and what they do for their relationships. Ask a lot of men who they are and they'll describe their job, maybe their family role, and then trail off. There's no deep answer because they haven't done the internal work to develop one. And women feel the absence of that. A man with a strong identity is a man who has opinions, interests, passions, values, non-negotiables. He has a sense of direction. He knows what he's building and why. He's interesting to talk to because he has a world of his own that exists independently of whoever he's dating. He doesn't need a woman to complete him because he's already a complete person. He's inviting her into something rather than asking her to become his everything. Marcus, and the guy I told you about at the beginning, his core issue was identity. He had done all the external things right. But when we stripped away the job and the car and the good manners, he couldn't tell me who he was at his core, what he stood for, what made him get out of bed excited, what he would refuse to compromise on. He had built his entire life around being the guy who's good on paper. And that's not an identity, that's a resume. Over a few months of work, Marcus started to develop a real sense of self. He got intentional about his passion for music production, something he'd pushed aside for years because it wasn't serious. He started being more honest in conversations, sharing opinions he used to hide because he was afraid women wouldn't like them. He stopped performing and started just being. And the difference was remarkable, not just in how women responded to him, but in how he felt about himself. That's the real gift of understanding attraction. It's not just a dating strategy, it's a call to become more fully yourself. Now, some of you listening are probably thinking, okay, but this sounds like I have to change who I am. And I want to address that directly, because that's actually backwards. What I'm describing is not about becoming someone you're not. It's about becoming more of who you actually are and less of who you've been performing as. Most men have been conditioned from a young age to suppress the qualities that make them most attractive. They've been told that expressing desire is creepy, that having standards makes them difficult, that showing edge makes them toxic. So they've gradually sanded down their identity into something safe and palatable and thoroughly unattractive. And then they wonder why they're in the friend zone. The work we do here at Ali Vinci University and throughout this entire audiobook is about deconditioning, stripping away the layers of performance and getting back to the man underneath. The man with genuine presence, real standards, natural tension, and a strong identity. Because that man doesn't have to try very hard to attract. It just happens naturally. Because attraction is not a technique. Attraction is a result of who you are. Let me tell you something that I've seen play out with dozens of clients and that never stops being true. The men who struggle most with attraction are usually not struggling because of what they're doing. They're struggling because of what they believe. They believe that they need to earn attraction, that they need to deserve it, that they have to perform their way into it. And as long as they hold those beliefs, no amount of advice about texting or body language or conversation is going to help them. The real shift happens at the level of belief. When a man genuinely, not intellectually but in his bones, believes that he is worth being attracted to, everything changes. The way he talks changes, the way he moves changes, the way he responds when a woman tests him changes, the way he handles rejection changes. Because he's operating from a place of abundance rather than scarcity. He's not afraid of losing her because he knows there's another one. He's not devastated by rejection because he knows his worth isn't contingent on her approval. That's what we're building here, not a pickup strategy, a foundation. And I know that might sound abstract, so let me make it practical for a second. Think about the last time you were around a woman you were genuinely attracted to. Not just okay with, actually really attracted to. How did you feel? Were you relaxed? Or were you in your head? Were you being yourself? Or were you running a kind of background calculation? Am I saying the right things? Is she responding well? Does she like me? That internal noise, that constant self-monitoring is one of the biggest attraction killers there is. Because while you're busy calculating, you're not actually present. You're not actually connecting. You're somewhere between past regret and future anxiety. And that energy is palpable. Women feel it, and it's exhausting to be around. The man who's present, who's fully in the moment, genuinely listening, genuinely engaging, genuinely responding. That man is rare, and rare is attractive. Wanting is healthy, natural, beautiful even. A man who knows what he wants and pursues it with confidence is incredibly attractive. A man who needs a woman to feel complete, to feel validated, to feel worthy. That energy is felt immediately and it creates distance, not closeness. The top 1% of men are men who are complete within themselves, who have built a life, a purpose, an identity that exists and thrives whether or not a particular woman is in it. And from that foundation, they invite women in. They don't chase, they don't beg, they don't over-explain or over-pursue. They are simply living a life that's worth joining, and they make it clear, through their actions, their standards, their energy, that they are worth being with. That's the foundation of attraction. Now, I want to be honest with you about something before we move forward. Building this foundation is not fast. It's not a 3-step hack. It's not a weekend transformation. It is a process of genuine internal work. And some of the stuff I'm going to share in this audiobook is going to challenge you. Some of it is going to be uncomfortable to hear because it's going to point directly at things you've been doing wrong, maybe for years. And I need you to be willing to sit with that discomfort and instead of getting defensive. Because here's the thing, the men who've come through our programs at Ali Vinci University and genuinely transformed their dating lives, they weren't necessarily the most naturally gifted guys. They weren't always the best looking or the highest earning. What they all had in common was a willingness to be honest with themselves and to do the work. That's it. That's the entire secret. Honesty plus action. If you're listening to this right now, something in you already knows that you've been operating below your potential. Something in you knows that there's a version of yourself that's more attractive, more confident, more compelling, and that you haven't been living as that man. Otherwise, you wouldn't be here. And I respect that. That self-awareness, that's actually the first quality of a top 1% man. He's honest enough to look in the mirror and see what needs to change. You can meet women above your current self-worth. You can even get them interested initially, but you will not be able to maintain attraction above your own level of self-worth because eventually your true self-perception seeps through. It shows up in how you respond when she cancels plans, and how you react when she seems distant, and how quickly you abandon your own standards when you think she might leave, and she will feel it. This is why building your self-worth is not a nice to have. It is the most important thing you can do for your dating life. Period. Not the gym, not the wardrobe, not the bank account. Although all of those things matter, none of them matter more than how deeply you believe in your own value. And here's what's beautiful about this work. When you genuinely develop your self-worth, everything else follows. The gym becomes easier because you're doing it for you. The career becomes more focused because you have real direction. The relationships become healthier because you're attracting from a place of strength rather than desperation. It all starts here with this foundation. Marcus, by the way, last time I spoke with him, he was in a relationship with a woman he described as the most emotionally available, genuinely fascinating person he'd ever been with. And he laughed when I asked him what changed. He said, I stopped trying to be what I thought she wanted. I just started being me. And I said, that's it. That's the whole thing. Simple. Not easy, but simple. We're going to build on this foundation through every chapter of this audiobook. We're going to go deep on confidence, on purpose, on the modern dating landscape, on texting and social media, on what it means to lead in a relationship, on why attraction fades and how to rebuild it. And we're going to cover all of it, but none of it works without what we've talked about in this first chapter. Presence, standards, tension, identity. These are your 4 pillars. Come back to them whenever you're confused about why something isn't working. In chapter 2, we're going to go somewhere that's going to be uncomfortable for a lot of men. We're going to talk about the niskai, why being nice in the way most men are nice is one of the most devastating things you can do to your own attraction. This isn't permission to be an ass. This is an invitation to understand the difference between genuine kindness and approval-seeking disguised as kindness. Because those two things look almost identical on the outside, but women feel the difference immediately. And that's exactly what we're going to break down next. Stay with me